Elena Wright lived in a penthouse worth $12 million in the heart of Los Angeles. She had everything: money, success, a flawless public image. But she had never had a single healthy day in years. Dizzy spells, shortness of breath, insomnia, racing heartbeat. Every top doctor said the same thing: "You're perfectly fine." Until one late night, Marcus Hill, a single dad who cleaned her apartment after hours, found something small, hidden carefully. Not a disease, not stress, a habit she had never admitted to anyone. If the truth came out, would Marcus lose his job or save her life? Marcus Hill arrived at the Westwood Tower every night at 11. He parked his 10-year-old Honda in the underground lot, clocked in through the service entrance, and took the freight elevator up to the 42nd floor. The building was always quiet by then. Most residents were asleep or out. The hallways smelled like carpet cleaner and distant lavender from someone's diffuser. He had been cleaning penthouses for 3 years. It paid better than most night shifts, and the hours worked around his daughter's schedule. She was 9. Her name was Amy. She stayed with his mother on weeknights, and he picked her up every morning before school. It was not glamorous, but it was stable. Stable mattered more than glamorous. The penthouse he cleaned belonged to Elena Wright. He had seen her face on magazine covers in grocery store checkout lines. She ran a tech company that made some kind of software for hospitals. He did not understand exactly what it did, but he knew it made her very wealthy. The penthouse had floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked the city, marble countertops, furniture that looked like it came from a museum. Everything was white or glass or polished steel. Marcus had a key and a code. He let himself in and started in the kitchen like always. The sink was spotless. The counters were bare except for a single coffee mug, rinsed and placed upside down on a towel. He wiped down the surfaces anyway. That was the job. He moved through the living room. The couch cushions were perfectly arranged. The coffee table had nothing on it except a remote control, lined up parallel to the edge. He vacuumed even though the carpet showed no footprints. He dusted the shelves even though there was no dust. The apartment always felt too clean. Not clean like someone had just tidied up. Clean like no one really lived there, like a showroom. He had cleaned dozens of apartments over the years, and most of them had signs of life. A jacket thrown over a chair. Mail stacked on the counter. Shoes by the door. But Elena Wright's penthouse had none of that. It was controlled, sterile. Marcus did not mind. It made his job easier. He moved into the hallway. There were 3 bedrooms. The master bedroom door was always closed, and he never went in there. That was the rule. The other 2 rooms were empty except for a treadmill in one and a desk in the other. He dusted the desk, wiped down the treadmill, and moved on. The bathroom near the guest rooms was his next stop. He scrubbed the sink, wiped the mirror, checked the trash. It was always empty. He replaced the hand towels with fresh ones from the linen closet and moved back into the hallway. That was when he heard it. A cough. Sharp and wet, coming from behind the master bedroom door. Marcus froze. He had been cleaning this apartment for 8 months, and he had never heard her cough before. He had barely seen her at all. She was usually gone by the time he arrived, or she stayed in her room with the door closed. They had spoken maybe twice. Once when she asked him to avoid using a certain cleaner because it gave her a headache. Once when she handed him an envelope with a holiday bonus inside. The cough came again. Longer this time. It sounded painful. Marcus stood in the hallway, holding a spray bottle in one hand and a rag in the other. He told himself it was not his business. She was a grown woman. If she was sick, she had access to the best doctors in the city. He was just the guy who cleaned her floors, but the cough did not stop. It went on for nearly a minute, harsh and relentless. He heard her gasp for air between fits. He set the spray bottle down on the hallway table and walked toward the door. He knocked lightly. "Miss Wright?" No answer, just more coughing. He knocked again, louder this time. "Miss Wright, are you okay?" The coughing stopped. There was silence for a few seconds. Then her voice came through the door, tight and strained. "I'm fine." Marcus did not move. He had heard that tone before. His wife used to say the same thing near the end, when her lungs were failing and she could barely stand. "I'm fine. Always I'm fine. Do you need water?" Marcus asked. "I said I'm fine." He heard movement inside the room. Footsteps. The sound of something being set down hard on a surface. Then the door opened a crack, and Elena Wright looked out at him. She was younger than he expected. Maybe mid-30s. Her hair was pulled back in a loose ponytail, and she wore a t-shirt and sweatpants. Her face was pale, and there were dark circles under her eyes. She looked exhausted. "I'm sorry," she said. Her voice was hoarse. "I didn't mean to disturb you." Marcus shook his head. "You didn't. I just wanted to make sure you were all right." "I'm fine," she said again. "Just a cough. It happens." She started to close the door, but Marcus spoke before she could. "You should drink some water. It helps." Elena looked at him for a moment, her expression unreadable. Then she nodded. "Thank you." She closed the door softly. Marcus stood there for a few seconds, then picked up his supplies and went back to work. He finished the rest of the apartment in silence, locked the door behind him, and took the elevator back down to the lobby. But he could not stop thinking about the cough. Over the next 2 weeks, Marcus started noticing things he had not noticed before. Small things. Easy to miss if you were not paying attention. There were always mints on the kitchen counter. Not in a bowl. Just loose, scattered near the coffee maker. Sometimes 5 or 6 at a time. He threw them away and wiped down the counter. And the next night there would be more. The bathroom trash in the guest room always had tissues in it. Not many. Just a few. Crumpled at the bottom. He had assumed she had a cold, but it had been 2 weeks, and the tissues kept appearing. And then there was the air purifier. It sat on the floor near the sliding glass door that led to the balcony. It was small, about the size of a shoebox, and it ran constantly. He had never thought much of it before. Lots of people in Los Angeles used air purifiers. The city had bad air quality, but one night, Marcus noticed that the filter looked brand new. He checked the model number on the side and looked it up on his phone during his break. The filter was supposed to last 6 months. This one had been replaced recently. He could tell because there was no dust buildup, no discoloration. It was pristine. He started paying closer attention after that. He noticed that Elena always had a bottle of mouthwash in the guest bathroom, even though she did not use that bathroom. He noticed that the windows were always open, even in the middle of winter when the temperature dropped into the 40s. He noticed that the balcony door was unlocked every night, even though the building had strict rules about keeping balconies secured. And he noticed the smell. It was faint, so faint that he almost missed it. But it was there, lingering near the sliding door, near the air purifier. A sharp, chemical smell mixed with something burnt. Marcus knew that smell. He had grown up around it. His father had smoked 2 packs a day until he died of a heart attack at 53. His wife had smoked 2 before she got sick. She quit when the doctors told her to, but by then the damage was done. He knew what cigarette smoke smelled like, even when someone tried to cover it up. Marcus did not say anything. It was not his place. Elena Wright was a private person, and he was just the man who cleaned her apartment. If she wanted to smoke, that was her choice. But the cough kept getting worse. One night, Marcus was cleaning the secondary balcony. It was smaller than the main one, tucked around the side of the building where most people did not bother going. There was a single chair out there, a small metal table, and a potted plant that had died months ago. He swept the floor and wiped down the railing. Then he moved the chair to vacuum underneath it. That was when he saw it. A plastic bag, folded tightly and shoved behind the outdoor air conditioning unit. He pulled it out and opened it. Inside were cigarette butts. At least 20 of them, maybe more. They were wrapped in tissue, stuffed into the bag, and tied shut. There was also a small glass ashtray, barely bigger than a coaster, wiped clean but still stained with ash. Marcus stared at the bag for a long time. He thought about his wife, about the way she used to hide her cigarettes in the garage, in the toolbox, in the pocket of an old jacket she never wore, about the way she used to chew gum and spray perfume and open every window in the house, trying to make sure no one would know. He thought about the last year of her life, when her lungs gave out and she could not walk 10 feet without gasping for air. He thought about Elena Wright, coughing behind her bedroom door, hoarse and breathless and alone. Marcus put the bag back where he found it. He finished cleaning the balcony, put his supplies away, and locked the door behind him. But he did not leave. He stood in the hallway outside the penthouse for a long time, staring at the door. He knew what he had to do. He just did not know if he had the right to do it. Marcus did not sleep well that night. He went home, checked on Amy, sat in his kitchen with a cup of coffee he did not drink. He kept thinking about the bag of cigarette butts hidden behind the air conditioning unit. He kept hearing the sound of Elena's cough through the door. He told himself it was not his problem. She was an adult. She made her own choices. He was a cleaning worker, not a doctor, not a friend. He had no right to get involved. But the next night, when he arrived at the penthouse, he could not stop himself from checking the secondary balcony again. The bag was still there. He left it alone and went back inside. Elena was home. He could hear her moving around in the master bedroom. The door was closed, as always. He cleaned the kitchen, the living room, the guest bathroom. He tried to focus on his work, but his mind kept drifting. He was wiping down the glass coffee table when he heard footsteps behind him. Marcus. He turned around. Elena stood in the hallway, wearing a blazer and jeans. She looked like she had just come back from somewhere. Her hair was down, and she had makeup on, but it did not quite hide the exhaustion in her face. "Miss Wright," Marcus said. He set down the cleaning cloth. "I didn't know you were home." "I got back a few minutes ago," she said. Her voice was still hoarse. "I wanted to talk to you." Marcus felt his stomach tighten. He wondered if she had noticed him looking at the balcony. If she knew he had found the cigarettes. "Is everything okay?" he asked. Elena crossed her arms. She looked uncomfortable, like she was not used to having conversations like this. "I wanted to apologize," she said. "For the other night. I know I was rude when you knocked on my door." Marcus shook his head. "You weren't rude." "I was," Elena said. "You were just trying to help, and I shut you down. That wasn't fair." "You don't owe me an apology," Marcus said. "I'm just the guy who cleans your apartment." Elena looked at him for a moment, then glanced away. "Still," she said, "I appreciate what you do. I know I don't say that enough." She turned and walked back toward her bedroom. Marcus watched her go, then picked up the cleaning cloth and went back to work. But the conversation stayed with him. There was something in her voice. Something that sounded like guilt. 3 nights later, Marcus saw her again. This time, she was sitting on the main balcony when he arrived. The sliding door was open, and he could see her silhouette against the city lights. She was in a chair, her back to him, staring out at the skyline. Marcus hesitated, then knocked lightly on the doorframe. Elena turned her head. "Sorry," Marcus said. "I didn't mean to interrupt. I can come back later." "No, it's fine," Elena said. She stood up and walked inside, closing the door behind her. "I was just getting some air." She moved past him into the kitchen and poured herself a glass of water. Her hand shook slightly as she lifted the glass to her lips. Marcus set down his vacuum and looked at her. "Are you feeling all right?" he asked. Elena set the glass down on the counter. She looked at him, and for a moment, he thought she might tell him the truth. But then she smiled, and the moment was gone. "I'm fine," she said. "Just tired. Work has been busy." Marcus nodded slowly. He did not believe her, but he did not push. Elena picked up her glass and walked back toward her bedroom. She stopped at the doorway and looked back at him. "Thank you for asking," she said quietly. Then she closed the door. Marcus stood in the kitchen for a long time after that. He thought about his wife again, about the way she used to lie to him, even when he knew the truth, about the way he used to let her, because it was easier than forcing her to admit she was dying. He thought about Elena Wright, standing in her kitchen with a glass of water, pretending she was fine, and he thought about the bag of cigarettes still hidden on the balcony. The next night, Marcus made a decision. He arrived at the penthouse at his usual time. Elena was not home. He cleaned the kitchen, the living room, the hallways. Then he walked out to the secondary balcony and stood in front of the air conditioning unit. He pulled out the plastic bag and held it in his hands. He could throw it away. Pretend he never saw it. Go back to his routine and let Elena Wright handle her own life. But he did not. He put the bag back where he found it, went back inside, and waited. Elena came home around midnight. Marcus heard the front door open, heard her footsteps in the hallway. He was in the guest bathroom, scrubbing the sink. He set down the sponge, dried his hands, and walked out into the hallway. Elena was standing near the kitchen, setting down her purse. She looked surprised to see him. "Marcus," she said, "I thought you'd be gone by now." "I wanted to talk to you," Marcus said. Elena's expression shifted. She looked guarded. "About what?" Marcus took a breath. He had rehearsed this in his head a dozen times, but now that he was standing in front of her, the words felt clumsy and intrusive. "I found something," he said. "On the balcony. The small one, around the side." Elena's face went pale. She did not say anything. "I wasn't snooping," Marcus continued. "I was just cleaning, and I moved the chair, and I saw the bag." Elena stared at him. Her jaw tightened. "You had no right to go through my things," she said. "I didn't go through anything," Marcus said. "I found it by accident. But once I did, I couldn't just ignore it." Elena crossed her arms. Her voice was cold now, defensive. "So what? You're going to lecture me? Tell me how bad smoking is for my health?" "No," Marcus said. "I'm not here to lecture you." "Then what do you want?" Marcus looked at her. He saw the fear in her eyes, the shame she was trying to hide behind anger. "I lost my wife 3 years ago," he said quietly. Her lungs gave out. She smoked for 20 years, and by the time she tried to quit, it was too late. I watched her spend the last 6 months of her life struggling to breathe. I watched her die in a hospital bed, gasping for air. Elena's expression softened. The anger faded, replaced by something else, something fragile. "I'm sorry," she said. Her voice was barely above a whisper. "I'm not telling you this to make you feel bad," Marcus said. "I'm telling you because I recognize the signs, the cough, the mints, the air purifier, the mouthwash. You're trying to hide it, and I get that. But the symptoms you're having, the shortness of breath, the dizziness, I've seen them before." Elena looked away. She wrapped her arms tighter around herself, like she was trying to hold herself together. "It's not that simple," she said. "I know," Marcus said. "I'm not saying it is." Elena was quiet for a long time. Then she walked over to the couch and sat down. She looked small, sitting there in her expensive apartment, surrounded by all her success. "Do you know what people would say if they found out?" she asked. Her voice was shaking now. "If they knew I smoked?" Marcus sat down in the chair across from her. "They'd judge me," Elena continued. "They'd say I was weak, undisciplined, hypocritical. I run a company that makes software for hospitals. I give talks about health and wellness and productivity, and I can't even stop smoking." She let out a bitter laugh. "I've tried," she said. "I've tried so many times. But every time I quit, I fall apart. I can't sleep. I can't focus. I can't handle the pressure. So I go back to it, and I tell myself I'll quit later. When things calm down. When I'm not so stressed." She looked at Marcus, and her eyes were wet. "But things never calm down," she said. "And I'm so tired of pretending I have everything under control." Marcus did not say anything. He just sat there, letting her talk. "I know it's killing me," Elena said. "I know I'm not fine. But if I admit that, if I ask for help, everyone will know I'm a fraud. They'll know I'm not who they think I am." "You're not a fraud," Marcus said gently. "You're just human." Elena shook her head. "You don't understand. My whole life is built on this image. If that falls apart, everything falls apart." Marcus leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. "I'm not going to tell anyone," he said. "That's not why I'm here. I just wanted you to know that I see what's happening, and if you ever want to talk about it, I'm here." Elena looked at him, and for the first time since he had met her, she looked like she believed him. "Why do you care?" she asked. Marcus thought about his wife. About the nights he spent sitting beside her hospital bed, wishing he had said something sooner. wishing he had pushed harder. "Because I didn't say anything last time," he said, "and I've regretted it every day since." Elena wiped her eyes. She did not say anything, but she nodded. Marcus stood up and picked up his cleaning supplies. "I'll finish up and get out of your way," he said. He walked toward the kitchen, but Elena's voice stopped him. "Marcus." He turned around. "Thank you," she said. Marcus nodded. Then he went back to work. Over the next week, things were different. Elena did not avoid him anymore. She started leaving her bedroom door open. She made small talk when he arrived. She asked him about his daughter, about his life outside of work. Marcus answered her questions, but he did not push. He did not bring up the cigarettes again. He just did his job and let her know he was there if she needed him. But the cough did not go away. If anything, it got worse. One night, Marcus arrived to find Elena sitting on the couch, her head in her hands. She looked up when she heard him come in, and he could see the exhaustion written all over her face. "Bad day?" Marcus asked. Elena let out a long breath. "Bad week." Marcus set down his supplies and sat down across from her. "You want to talk about it?" Elena shook her head. "Not really." They sat in silence for a moment. Then Elena spoke. "I went to the doctor yesterday," she said. "They ran tests, blood work, lung function, everything." Marcus waited. "They said I'm fine," Elena continued. "Physically, there's nothing wrong with me. The dizziness, the shortness of breath, it's all stress, apparently. They told me to exercise more. Meditate. Take a vacation." She laughed, but there was no humor in it. "They don't know about the smoking," she said. "I didn't tell them." Marcus looked at her. "Why not?" "Because then it would be real," Elena said. "If I tell them, it goes in my medical records. It becomes part of my history. And I can't let that happen." Marcus did not know what to say. He wanted to tell her that her health was more important than her image, that hiding the truth was only going to make things worse. But he knew she already knew that. She did not need him to tell her. "I'm scared," Elena said quietly. "I'm scared that if I stop, I won't be able to function. And I'm scared that if I don't stop, I'm going to end up like your wife." Marcus felt a tightness in his chest. He thought about the hospital, about the machines, about the way his wife looked at him in those final days, like she was sorry for everything. "You're not going to end up like her," Marcus said. "Not if you do something about it now." Elena looked at him. "How do I do that?" "One step at a time," Marcus said. "You don't have to quit tomorrow. You don't have to tell the world. You just have to be honest with yourself. And maybe with one other person." Elena's eyes filled with tears again. She looked down at her hands. "I don't know if I can," she said. "You can," Marcus said. "I've seen you run a company. I've seen you give speeches. I've seen you hold it together when everything around you is falling apart. You're stronger than you think." Elena wiped her eyes and took a shaky breath. "What if I fail?" she asked. "Then you try again," Marcus said. "That's all any of us can do." 2 nights later, everything fell apart. Marcus arrived at the penthouse to find the lights off. He let himself in and turned on the hallway light. The apartment was silent. Too silent. He called out, "Miss Wright?" No answer. He walked through the living room, the kitchen, checking the rooms. She was not there. Then he heard it. A faint sound, coming from the elevator lobby. Marcus ran out into the hallway and found Elena sitting on the floor, her back against the wall. She was gasping for air, her face pale and slick with sweat. Her hands were shaking. "Elena," Marcus said, dropping to his knees beside her. "What happened?" "I can't breathe," she whispered. "I can't." Her voice broke off as another fit of coughing took over. Marcus pulled out his phone, ready to call 911, but Elena grabbed his wrist. "No," she said. "No ambulance. Please, you need help," Marcus said. "Not like this," Elena said. "Not here. Please." Marcus looked at her. He saw the terror in her eyes, the shame. He put his phone away and helped her to her feet. "Come on," he said. "Let's get you inside." He guided her back into the penthouse and sat her down on the couch. He got her a glass of water, made her drink it slowly. He stayed with her until her breathing steadied, until the color came back to her face. When she finally looked at him, her eyes were red and swollen. "I thought I was going to die," she said. Marcus sat down beside her. "You're okay. You're going to be okay." Elena shook her head. "I can't keep doing this." "I know," Marcus said. She looked at him, and he saw something break in her expression. All the walls she had built up, all the control she had clung to, it crumbled. "I need help," she whispered. Marcus reached out and took her hand. "Then let me help you," he said. The next morning, Marcus came back to the penthouse. He had not slept. He had gone home after Elena finally fell asleep on the couch, but he kept thinking about the look on her face in the elevator lobby, the way her hands shook, the way she begged him not to call for help. He knocked on the door at 9. Elena opened it almost immediately. She looked like she had not slept either. Her hair was pulled back, and she wore the same clothes from the night before. "I didn't think you'd come back," she said. "I told you I would," Marcus said. Elena stepped aside and let him in. The penthouse looked the same as always. Clean, perfect, empty. They sat down at the kitchen table. Marcus had brought coffee from the shop downstairs. He set a cup in front of her, and she wrapped her hands around it but did not drink. "I don't know where to start," Elena said. "You don't have to start anywhere," Marcus said. "We can just sit here if that's what you need." Elena looked at him. "You should have called 911 last night. I could have died." "But you didn't," Marcus said. "You don't know that," Elena said. Her voice was sharp now, defensive. "You're not a doctor. You're not qualified to make that call." Marcus nodded. "You're right. I'm not. But you asked me not to, and I listened. If that was the wrong choice, then I'm sorry." Elena looked down at her coffee. The sharpness faded from her voice. "I'm sorry," she said. "I shouldn't have snapped at you. You were just trying to help." "You don't have to apologize," Marcus said. "You're scared. I get it." Elena was quiet for a moment. Then she spoke. "I've been smoking since I was 19, she said. "I started in college. Everyone did it back then. It was just something you did at parties, when you were stressed, when you needed a break. I told myself I'd quit after graduation. Then I told myself I'd quit after I got my first job. Then after I started my company. But I never did." She finally took a sip of her coffee. "It got worse when the company took off," she continued. "The pressure was constant. Board meetings, investor calls, product launches. I couldn't afford to fall apart, so I smoked to keep myself steady. It became the only thing that made me feel like I could breathe." Marcus listened without interrupting. "I know how stupid that sounds," Elena said. "Smoking to feel like I can breathe. But it's true. When I don't have it, I feel like I'm drowning, like everything is spinning out of control." "It's not stupid," Marcus said. "It's addiction. That's how it works." Elena looked at him. "How did your wife quit?" Marcus felt the old ache settle in his chest. "She didn't. Not really. She stopped smoking when the doctors told her she had to, but by then it was too late. The damage was done." Elena's face fell. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have asked." "It's okay," Marcus said. "I want to talk about it. I want you to understand what happens if you don't stop." He set his coffee down and leaned forward. "She spent the last 6 months of her life hooked up to oxygen," Marcus said. "She couldn't walk across the room without getting winded. She couldn't play with our daughter. She couldn't do anything. And the worst part was watching her realize that she had done it to herself. That if she had just stopped sooner, she might have had more time." Elena's eyes filled with tears. She did not wipe them away. "I don't want that to be you," Marcus said. "I don't want you to look back in 5 years and realize you could have done something. Because you can. Right now. You still have time." Elena took a shaky breath. "I don't know if I'm strong enough." "You are," Marcus said. "But you don't have to do it alone." Elena looked at him, and for the first time, she looked like she believed him. Over the next few weeks, Marcus came to the penthouse during the day instead of at night. Elena had taken time off from work. She told her assistant she was dealing with a personal matter and needed space. She did not tell anyone else. Marcus did not clean during those visits. He just sat with her. Sometimes they talked, sometimes they did not. He brought her water when she needed it. He stayed with her when the cravings got bad. The first few days were the hardest. Elena was restless, irritable, exhausted. She snapped at him more than once, and each time she apologized afterward. Marcus told her it was fine. He had seen it before. He knew it was not personal. "I feel like I'm losing my mind," Elena said one afternoon. She was sitting on the couch, her knees pulled up to her chest. "I can't think. I can't sleep. I can't do anything." "It gets easier," Marcus said. "Not right away, but it does." "How long did it take your wife?" Elena asked. Marcus thought back. A few weeks before the physical symptoms eased up. A few months before she stopped thinking about it all the time. Elena let out a bitter laugh. "A few months. Great. I know it feels impossible right now," Marcus said. "But you're doing it. You haven't smoked in 5 days. That's something." Elena looked at him. 5 days doesn't mean anything if I go back to it tomorrow." "Then don't go back to it tomorrow," Marcus said. "Just focus on today." Elena wrapped her arms around her knees and stared out the window. "What if I fail?" she asked quietly. "Then you try again," Marcus said. "That's all you can do." On the 8th day, Elena broke down. Marcus arrived to find her sitting on the balcony, the same balcony where he had found the cigarettes weeks ago. She was not smoking, but she was holding something in her hand. He walked over and saw that it was a pack of cigarettes, unopened. "I bought them this morning," Elena said. Her voice was flat, emotionless. "I walked to the store, and I bought them, and I came back here. And I've been sitting here for 2 hours trying to decide if I'm going to open them." Marcus sat down in the chair beside her. He did not say anything. "I don't know if I can do this," Elena said. "I thought I could, but I don't know anymore." Marcus looked at the pack in her hand. "Do you want to open them?" Elena stared at the pack. "Yes and no. I don't know." "What would happen if you did?" Marcus asked. Elena's hands tightened around the pack. "I'd feel better. For about 10 minutes, and then I'd feel worse. Because I'd know I failed." "You haven't failed," Marcus said. "I bought cigarettes," Elena said. "That's failing. You bought them, but you haven't smoked them," Marcus said. "That's not failing. That's fighting." Elena looked at him. Her eyes were red, and her face was pale. "I'm so tired of fighting," she said. "I know," Marcus said. "But you're still here. That means something." Elena stared at the pack for a long time. Then she stood up, walked over to the railing, and threw it over the edge. Marcus watched it fall 42 stories and disappear into the street below. Elena turned around and looked at him. She was crying now, really crying, and she did not try to hide it. "I don't want to die," she said. Marcus stood up and walked over to her. "You're not going to." Elena covered her face with her hands and let herself cry. Marcus stood beside her and let her. He did not try to fix it. He just stayed. After that day, things got easier. Not easy, but easier. The cravings were still there, but they were less intense. Elena started sleeping better. The cough began to fade. The dizziness came less often. Marcus still came by a few times a week, but the visits were shorter now. Elena did not need him to sit with her all day anymore. She was finding her footing. One afternoon, Marcus arrived to find Elena sitting at her desk in the spare room. She had her laptop open, and she was typing something. She looked up when he came in. "Hey," she said. She looked different, more rested, more alive. "Hey," Marcus said. "How are you feeling?" "Better," Elena said. "Not perfect, but better." Marcus smiled. "That's good." Elena closed her laptop and turned to face him. "I've been thinking," she said, "about going back to work. Not full-time. Not yet. But maybe a few hours a day, just to ease back into it." "That sounds like a good idea," Marcus said. Elena nodded. "I'm nervous. I don't know how I'm going to handle the stress without—" She stopped herself. "Without the crutch." "You'll figure it out," Marcus said. "You've made it this far." Elena looked at him. "I couldn't have done this without you." Marcus shook his head. "Yes, You could have. You just didn't have to. Elena stood up and walked over to him. She held out her hand. Thank you, she said. Marcus shook her hand. You're welcome. 3 months later, Elena gave a talk at a health and wellness conference in San Francisco. Marcus did not go, but he watched the recording online. She stood on stage in front of hundreds of people, and she talked about mental health, about the pressure to appear perfect, about the cost of hiding who you really are. She did not mention smoking. She did not mention Marcus, but she talked about asking for help, about admitting when you are not okay, about the strength it takes to be vulnerable. At the end of the talk, someone in the audience asked her what the hardest thing she had ever done was. Elena did not hesitate. Admitting I needed help, she said, and then actually accepting it. Marcus turned off the recording and sat back in his chair. He thought about his wife, about the things he wished he had said, the things he wished he had done. He thought about Elena, standing on that stage, telling the truth. He thought about the fact that sometimes the thing that saves you is not a cure or a solution. It is just another person who sees you and refuses to look away. A week later, Marcus got a text from Elena. It was the first time she had ever texted him outside of work. The message was short. 4 months. Still going. Thank you. Marcus smiled and put his phone away. He did not reply. He did not need to. The next time he saw Elena was at the penthouse. He had gone back to his regular night shift, and she was home when he arrived. She opened the door and smiled at him. Marcus, she said, come in. He walked inside, and the apartment looked the same as it always had. Clean, organized, perfect, but this time, it did not feel empty. Elena walked over to the kitchen and poured 2 glasses of water. She handed one to Marcus. I wanted to tell you something, she said. Marcus set his cleaning supplies down and took the glass. What's that? I told my board, Elena said. About everything. About the smoking. About taking time off. About needing help. Marcus looked at her, surprised. How did they react? He asked. Elena smiled. Better than I expected. They were supportive. One of them even told me she had gone through something similar. We talked for an hour. That's good, Marcus said. It is, Elena said. I spent so long being afraid of what people would think. And it turns out, most of them just wanted me to be okay. Marcus nodded. People surprise you sometimes. Elena looked at him. You did. Marcus did not know what to say to that, so he just smiled. Elena set her glass down and walked over to the window. She looked out at the city, at the lights stretching out in every direction. I used to think weakness was the worst thing you could be, she said. But I was wrong. The worst thing you can be is alone. Marcus stood beside her and looked out at the city too. You're not alone, he said. Elena turned to him and smiled. I know. They stood there for a moment, looking out at the lights. Then Marcus picked up his cleaning supplies and got to work. And for the first time in a long time, the penthouse felt like a place where someone actually lived. Sometimes, the thing that kills you is not the habit itself. It is the fear of being judged when you need help the most. And sometimes, the person who saves you is not a doctor, or a therapist, or a miracle. It is just someone who sees the truth and refuses to let you face it alone.